Hi guys and girls, my name is Thomas, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to become a professional software developer in 20 minutes. Now, first of all, what is a software developer? Well, a software developer is a professional human being that creates applications. So, what's an application? Well, this is not 100% correct for every single software system and or application that exists out there, but it's true for 80% of every single application created throughout the history of humanity. And an application consists of three parts. It has a database, it has a web API, and it has a front end. These are the three basic components of an application. So let's look at the database. The database evolves around an axiom called CRUD. And CRUD, of course, is an acronym, and software developers unfortunately loves acronyms, so let's look at what CRUD actually implies. Well, it means create, it means read, it means update and delete. And at this point, some software developers, particularly senior software developers, might object and say that CRUD is not enough to create complex applications, at which point my answer to them is that the world's by far largest software project ever created throughout the history of humanity exclusively evolves around CRUD. This software project has costed us $1,000 trillion. There have been 30 million software developers working on it for the last 50 years. And it exclusively evolves around CRUD. And I'm of course talking about the World Wide Web. You see, create is a verb and its HTTP equivalent is post. Read, HTTP equivalent, get. Update, HTTP equivalent, put. Delete, HTTP equivalent, delete. And HTTP, which is the backbone of the World Wide Web, exclusively evolves around these four verbs. So if CRUD was good enough for a $1,000 trillion software project that 30 million software developers have been working on non-stop for 50 years, and also it is the by far most successful endeavor humanity probably has ever undertaken as a species, and CRUD is probably good enough for your applications too. So let's look at the web API. What's the web API? Well, it sits between your database and front end, and it secures access to your database, and it adds business logic to your app. That's the second component. Let's look at the third component. The third component is the front end and the thing you see, everything that's visible. Now, to provide the relationship between these three different basic components that in their combined results ends up resulting in your application, this is the way it looks like. Yeah, the front end to the right, the thing you see, front end exclusively communicates with the API and does not have direct access to your database. The API is the only thing that communicates with your database. And this is the relationship between these three moving parts. Now, the beauty of creating applications is that this is where 99% of your complexity as a software developer ends up. Beauty of ASTA is that this is the only thing you need to think about when you're using ASTA, effectively making it 100 times easier for you to create applications. Why? Because the database exposes metadata that allows AISTA Magic Cloud to automatically generate an API, which again exposes metadata that allows you to automatically generate a front end. So if you're smart enough to use Excel or Microsoft Word or Facebook for that matter, you're probably smart enough to visually design a database using AISTA Magic Cloud for them to click two buttons and you have a full stack web app. So now let's look at how to do just that. Here I am at aista.com. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video in case you want to reproduce what I am doing. And I actually do encourage you to do that. Pause the video and go through the exact same process as I am doing in this video if you are serious about becoming a professional software developer. When you come here, there are two buttons in the top right corner. Sign up First time you come here, you're going to have to click the sign up button, and you're going to have to provide the system with your full name, your email address, your username, and a password. And then you need to verify your email address. Make sure you check your email after you have clicked sign up. And in case you can't find the email, make sure you check your spam folder. I have already signed up, so I'm going to click log in, at which point the system asks me for my username and my password, and I can click sign in. And after a couple of seconds, I am inside of Hub. Now I'm going to create a new cloudlet. In the top right corner here, I'm going to click the plus, create cloudlet, and I'm going to choose demo Magicaista backend cloudlet here, and I'm going to click create. At this point, the system asks me for a name of my cloudlet. I'm going to call this one for cookies. Then it asks me where I want to provision this particular cloudlet. I'm just going to choose, let's choose San Jose. Now, you should probably choose a geographic location that's not like too far away from where you are physically located in this world. Then when I click create, it takes 45 seconds, at which point afterwards I will have my own private Aista Magic Cloud backend cloudlet. This is my private cloudlet, and it's my data inside of it, and only I can access it, and it is for my own personal usage. Notice this is a demo cloudlet. It only works for 30 days before it's being automatically destroyed. So if you want to use it for more than 30 days, you have to upgrade the cloudlet before 30 days have passed to a professional cloudlet, which of course is a service we are charging for. When the cloudlet is done created, you can click the URL here of your backend cloudlet, at which point the system asks you for your username and password, allowing you to log into your cloudlets. And I'm now logged into my cloudlet. Notice if you do have pop-up blockers stopping the new window from opening, you can also click navigate to your cloudlet here. However, I've turned off pop-up blockers for the aista.com domain. Then when you're inside of Magic, you can go to Tools, you can choose SQL Studio. And at this point, I can either install a plugin database, but I'm not going to do that for this particular video, because in this video, I want to bring you through the entire process from A to Z of actually creating your own software systems. I'm just going to close this guy. Then I'm going to create my own database. New database, cookies is going to be its name. My database is going to have two tables. The first table, click the ... here. First table is going to be named Baker, and it's going to be using a primary key called Baker_ID, which is automatically populated, and type of primary key is going to be auto increment, and then I'm just going to click create. Then inside of the Baker table, I can click the three ... here, and click add field, and then I'm going to provide it with a name. Then I'm going to choose data type, being text, and then I'm going to click create. When I'm done with that, I'm going to add another field called email. Its type is going to be text, and I'm going to click create. Now I can continue adding as many fields I want to collect related to a specific baker. And I'm just going to be adding one more, but you can really add as many fields as you want to. I'm going to be calling this field photo. Then I'm going to be choosing text and click create. And I can continue adding fields as I see fit, phone numbers, maybe address, whatever's like relevant data to associate with each individual baker in your system. Then I'm going to create one more table. Add table, recipe. Name of primary key is going to be recipe ID, and I can just click create. When the table is successfully created, I am going to click this one again and add a field to it. And then I'm going to call my field description, data type, text, and create. Then I'm going to be adding one more field to it. And this field I'm going to be naming created. And this time I want to add a separate different data type and associate with my field. I want to use timestamp. Timestamp is a date and time component. And then just click create here. So I now have two database tables. At this point, I want to associate a recipe with a baker. The way I do that is to create a fourth field in my recipe table. Choose add field here, then I'm going to choose baker here, which is the same name as my table. Then I'm going to click this foreign key thing, which points I'm asked for data type, and I want the data type to be the same as my baker ID data type here is, being an integer. I don't want it to have a default value. I want it to point to the table baker, and it's baker underscore ID field. So I now have a relational database where each individual record in my recipe table points to one specific baker. And as you can see here, the system visually shows me the relationship, and I can even click this guy and it will just flash up the table and scroll to that particular table for more complex types of databases. Now, if you remember what we said some 5 minutes ago, when you're done with your database, you're done with your app. I'm literally done with my app now. However, I need to click two buttons, and these two buttons I can find inside of the CRUD generator here under Tools, CRUD generator. So if I click CRUD generator now and I choose my database named cookies, then if I can configure individual tables. At this point, I can just click Crudify all tables, but I want to do some minor configurations here, especially for my recipe. Why? Because I want to expand the description field here, and I want to make sure it becomes a long text field. As you can see, the system automatically takes care of stuff such as created field, and it has a default value here, so it kind of like removes it from the create and update invocations. And it also takes care of baker, creating a referential integrity or a lookup from the recipe table into the baker table. And it does a lot of like intelligent types of guesses for me. If I go to the baker field here, you will see it does some guessing for my email field here. It assumes I want to handle this field as an email field. And it also assumes I want to handle the photo field as if it was an image. And these are good guesstimates for me. So I'm now done configuring everything. So I'm just going to click Codify all tables. And I'm now done with my API. Then I can give my app a name. I'm going to call it cookies. Big surprise. Then I'm going to choose template, Angular. Then I can choose my coloring. Okay, let's choose brown. It's a good color for cookies, I guess, since chocolate happens to be my favorite cookies. And then I can click generate. And I'm now done. I now have a database, I have an API, and I have a front end. The only remaining thing required from me as a software developer is to deploy the app into production, deploy the application. And Magic is going to ask me if I want to be redirected to Hub, at which point I can just click yes here. I'm automatically redirected to Hub. I'm asked to sign in again. Then I can create another Cloudlet. In the top right corner, click Create Cloudlet, my second Cloudlet for the record. But this time, I'm not going to create a backend. I'm going to create a demo Angular frontend, which yet again is free for 30 days. And then I'm going to give my backend a name. Let's call it Good, at which point the full URL of my frontend Cloudlet will be Good Cookies plus my username. Then I'm going to click Create. And this takes some time because the Angular compiler requires actually more time to compile my app than what is required from the software developer to actually create the app. So while the compiler is doing its job, let's go back here now to Magic Cloud and let's click SQL Studio. Let's look at our database once more just to repeat such that we have a visual representation in our heads of what we are about to be given by the Angular compiler once it's done deploying our app. Okay, so we have two database tables, a baker and a recipe. The way to think about this is kind of like to think about them as if we have two Excel documents, where every single row in our recipe Excel document points to a row in our baker document, right? And each baker has these properties. It has a name, being John Doe, it has an email, being john@doe.com, and it has a photo. And then each baker has a list of many recipes. So this is a one-to-many relationship. This is the most complex thing you arguably have to teach yourself as you are using Magic Cloud. But there's a one-to-many relationship between one baker has multiple recipe, and every single recipe belongs to a baker somehow. So let's go back and see if our cloudlet is done, and it is. And we can now click on the demo Angular, the good cookies thing here, and we have access to our cookies. So only one thing remaining, as you can remember, the API secures the database, and by default, every single application you are creating with Magic Cloud is secured such that you have to log in with the username and password. Now when I'm inside of my cloudlet here, we see baker and we see recipe. These are the two tables we had here, baker and recipe. And we have two forms here, one for a baker and one for a recipe. And then we have users, which is a helper field, allowing me to dynamically create new users to give access to, for instance, friends, fools, and family, or whatever, to this particular system. However, I'm going to be creating a new baker now. I'm going to call him Baker John. And his email is john@bakers.com. And then I'm going to need a photo of him, cook, baker. Let's find a photo online just to have something to experiment with. Okay, this is a nice baker guy, I guess. Let's just save, open. Let's just save this image as here on our desktop. Let's close this guy. Let's upload the image. I need to convert it, unfortunately. Export. And here we go. Here's my baker. So now I'm choosing this baker and associating it with Baker John. And then I'm saving my baker. And after some few seconds, I now have inserted a record into my baker table. And here is John. Then I can create a recipe. And it can be Baker John. And it can be chocolate brownies are amazing. Some chocolate, some sugar, some water, cook for an hour. Ta-da! And I now saved the recipe. And I can edit this recipe if I wish. Go in here and I can edit it. As you can see, the created field was automatically populated by the same time. That's the time on my server. I can edit it. I can create, and I can delete, and I can read records. If I filter here now, Baker, right, and then I add another K, it's not going to find Baker John because he only had one K. I can sort, I can filter, I can search, and etc., etc. Now, an app like this typically takes you like 5 years to teach yourself the knowledge required to create this app. And even after having spent 5 years teaching you everything that is required to manually create this application as a software developer, you'd still be looking at easily 2 to 6 weeks of manual software development. We did it in 5 minutes. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.